look at some of the interesting characters that are around in this period, right? One character who was very influential, and this is somebody who is the direct descendant of T.H. Huxley, which is Julian Huxley. So Julian Huxley was an important biologist, and of course he was a Darwinist, and he was also a philosopher, and he was also somebody who wanted to impact society. He wasn't just interested in, oh, let me just speak about this theory, let me just try and modernize it. No, actually, he wanted people to become atheists. And he actually was very clear that for the modern man, there is a new religion. And that new religion is Darwinism. So he actually wrote a book in the 1930s, and the book is called Religion Without Revelation. Religion Without Revelation. You can still get this book. In fact, I've got it somewhere in this room, and it's an old copy from I think just before World War II. In fact, he's mentioning contemporary events like Nazism in that book as well. So what he goes on to argue in that book, and also his later book, New Bottles for New Wine, that we have this religion which he calls evolutionary humanism. And in the same way that in the future, in the same way that today, no rational sane person believes that the world is flat, likewise nobody will believe in the future that God exists, right? So he was somebody that was clearly militantly atheistic. He was somebody with some philosophical background as well. He wasn't just a biologist, and he wanted to promote these ideas all across the world. He actually was the founding member and the first president of UNESCO. Okay, now this is very interesting. The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. That means his ideas are global. His ideas are infused in the United Nations. They're infused in the way that the structure functions of the UN. And this is right from the onset. This isn't now. This is right. Remember, the League of Nations, which we had, collapsed. Then you had the UN, and he's right there at the beginning of UNESCO, and he has these ideas which are being propagated. Then what we find is that, again, here, Darwinism being used as a way to justify atheism, we find in the works of people like Richard Dawkins in his famous book, The Blind Watchmaker. So Paley's famous watchmaker analogy, I'm sure everybody here has heard of it. So, Dawkins challenged, essentially design using the idea of the blind watchmaker. The blind watchmaker here being nature. Nature is the blind watchmaker. So what we find in that book is a very interesting admission. And what Dawkins essentially says is, Darwin allowed us to be intellectually satisfied atheists. Okay? Darwin allowed us to be intellectually satisfied atheists. So clearly there is an emotional attachment to this theory. Imagine a Buddhist says string theory allows me to become an intellectually satisfied Buddhist. You'd be thinking, why are you basing your philosophical position on something from science? And you can ask a whole host of questions. But you again find that there's that link that he makes between atheism and Darwinism. And also what we find is that in his 2006 book, The God Delusion, the central argument of the God Delusion uses Darwinism as a reason to deny God.